Hi, Assalamualaikum and good morning everybody. Thank you
Hi.
for finding the time and joining today's University for Society forum. Okay, the theme for today's forum is Up and Coming Social Entrepreneurs, Driving Communities Forward. Uh, my name is Sharina, Dr. Sharina Osman, and I am the Deputy Director for Center for University Industry Collaboration in UUM. And I shall be your moderator today. Joining us are social entrepreneurs who have created positive impacts on social, cultural, and environmental issues. Yeah. Before I introduce everybody, today we have audience among students as well as active citizens. We also have lecturers. Yeah. And we hope that more coming up. Okay, but those are the group of people that is going to attend will be our audience. So first and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce all of the panelists. Let me start with Miss Nur Farini Daing, or we can also address her as Nini. Okay, she's the Chief Executive Officer of My Harapan, an organization dedicated towards empowering young Malaysians by supporting youth projects and initiatives that contribute to nation building efforts. Our second panelist is the powerhouse Raudah Nasran, a law graduate. She is the CEO and founder of Accelerate Global, a social enterprise aimed at tackling youth unemployment worldwide. Okay, thank you, Rauda. And then we also have this one, our students, like I can say, but very close to us, yeah, our dear student, Miss Wong Wei Chi. Also, we call her Vicky. Okay, currently pursuing her bachelor degree in accounting, information system. Vicky is the co-founder of Ibopreneur, a social enterprise that empowers women to be micro entrepreneurs from their home ready skills. So welcome everyone, and thank you for making time despite your busy schedule to be with us here on In Touch Virtual Connected series brought to you by CYC. Okay, let me give a little bit about CYC. Yeah, basically, this virtual connected series is an initiative which generates industry players, community leaders, entrepreneurs, and academia together to share their insights and experiences. So, in the previous forum, we have discussed on how we can band together and build a better tomorrow for everyone. In today's edition of the forum, we group together this Wonder Woman, okay, who have been making waves in empowering the community. So all these panelists today come from diverse background. However, just as a spirit of togetherness, our focus remains the same, impact for connections and to mobilize whatever resources we have in spreading more positivity and giving back to the mass. Yeah. So before, how to say, we start, uh, there's a few house rules lah. Huh? Let me explain the flow of this forum. Okay, this forum will have 4 segments. In segment 1 and 3, I will pose to each panelist questions. In segment 2, we shall pick up some questions from the audience. And finally, in segment 4, we will wrap up. All right. In each segment, each panelist will be given 5 to 7 minutes to share their insights. Okay, are you guys ready? All right. So let's start with the first segment. Okay, and I would like to start with our first panelist, with Ms. Noor Farini and Nini. You lead an organization that provides platform to help youth in Malaysia skill, sustain, and also multiple their impact. So how do you achieve this, and how do you inspire? Uh, how do you inspire this segment of the community to look beyond their perceived limitation and help them to be well-rounded individuals? Over to you.
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah, in one
Yeah,
question, there's so
and in
many
5 to 7 minutes. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you're looking at, I'm in the presence of this, these wholesome and wonderful entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, who are driving their own initiatives, and this is the aim that we want to see fulfilled. I think a lot of it has got to do with providing with young people with the opportunity to try for themselves what it means to contribute to society within, in a different viewpoint, which is not necessarily based on charity necessarily, but on the idea that businesses can effectively can create the positive impact that we need to achieve in view consideration of both social and environmental impact. So I think there shouldn't be any demarcation between actually business and doing good. By right, doing good should be the default. So how do we get young people to think about it is to really expose them to these sort of opportunities by giving them a little bit of seed funding. Usually at the end of the day, a lot of people say fun is the most important thing, but we feel that fun, FUN, is the first thing that you need to go
Yeah.
to first, because without FUN, and FUN, I mean not necessarily just in the silliness and the silly things that we do, but the fact that in changing and transforming other people's lives, you still need to find yourself first. So we go through that process of self-discovery, understanding what your key strengths are. You can understand your weaknesses, of course, but the idea is how can I actually focus on what I can do best, and how do I work with other people that have the same, or meet with the people who share the same visions and share the same mission. So I think it's about looking at what young people are really great at already, and I think right now they are already looking at, there must be something different that we can do. How we do it, how is it that we can do a lot of things better now more than before? And I think with the pandemic, that has even accelerated this entire thinking, and the new way of thinking of what business is, or even what charity is. Um, so when you talk about mindset change, obviously is a long process. So we actually do it first from at school level even. So we go down to schools to talk about what social innovation is, what are the sort of things you can actually do, and without necessarily telling them that, oh, this is social innovation or this is social enterprise. But the idea that they can actually look into ways of contributing in their own little way, and then moving it up a little bit more about how do we look into business models, how do we, and that is only a means to ensure their sustainability over the long run. So I think it's a process. First, you have to be able to know that, guess what, there is such a thing as doing business for good. It's not blasphemous to actually charge people for the products and services that you need to provide, so long as you factor in all these additional costs that we often forget. The cost to society, cost to, and are we paying fair wages to the people that we employ? I think it's all about being responsible and being accountable to the sort of things that you do, and in providing those products and services. So it is a paradigm shift. We've been doing this for the past 10 years. Inshallah, we'll be doing this for another 10 years. But I think eventually we see a lot more Rauda, a lot more Vicky along the way. I think, that's time where I can actually retire.
It's too
And
early to say so.
I don't think that I don't think that that's too long to be honest, because I see a lot of growth within, not just there's a lot of interest obviously within the urban areas when you talk about social entrepreneurship. There's a lot of students from the UK, from everywhere else, which have been exposed to all of this, who are coming back to, I feel, provide that awareness and that culture of doing good in business. So yes, I'm really looking forward to retiring very, very soon.
Oh no,
um,
no, no, no.
uh,
Why?
yeah, no. Because there's a lot of inspirational stories, not only within KL, but you have we're seeing a lot more going out there. Outside of the Klang Valley, which is really, really good news for us. It's always been our desire to do things a lot more, not just within the city centers, but there's a lot more that grassroots entrepreneurs can actually do things in their own little way. Because if you're able to create impact one other person, I think for us is enough already. And you have that mindset, I think we'll be able to provide solutions for all sorts of issues that we're facing currently. Just one other person. I think that would be the aim. Starting small and then growing big. So we provide that facilitation throughout. Obviously there are a lot of other agencies, there are a lot of other societies, and there are a lot of the social enterprise community is coming together to provide the sort of facilitation and the support that young people need to see how they can navigate through this process while they can fail in a safe manner. I
Great.
feel that failure is definitely something that needs to be felt, and that's what actually keeps you going, and knowing that at the end of the day, failures only make you better. That's part of your growing process. I'm still growing. I'm still failing in some way or manner. I think I'll stop there. Otherwise, I'll be going on forever for now.
Um, it's okay. I think let's move to Rauda. Yeah, you are the CEO and founder of Accelerate Global, an outfit which address youth unemployment. Yeah, globally. You are trained lawyer, but you made a drastic shift to human capital development. So, what drive you to realize Accelerate, and what your development strategies to create an impact to the society?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharina. But before that, I just wanted to highlight that we're all color coordinated here, if you realize. There's a purple hijab, you're wearing a purple baju kurung. Miss Farini is also wearing, I think, a purple blouse. I'm wearing a white blouse, you're wearing white hijab, and Wakey is wearing white t-shirt. So there you go. It's the chemistry right there, and I love
Yeah.
All right, yeah, cool. Sorry, I'm just going back to the question of Dr. Sharina. I have to say, and I've got to be very honest with you, my law background has sparked numerous discussions and questions from the wider public, especially, the shift that I made, or sort of the career shift I made. So before I delve into answering the question that Dr. Sharina posed to me, I just wanted to tell you guys that I am in love with law. I didn't make that career shift because I didn't like what I learned. I
Okay.
was in love with law. I am still in love with law, and I will always be in love with law. In fact, it has always been my dream to become a criminal lawyer. But if I can be very honest with all of you, the reason why I didn't manage to practice my law was because I don't have the necessary financials to pursue my bar. When I was doing my undergraduate studies, I was fully funded by JPA, but unfortunately, JPA doesn't extend the scholarship to professional certificates, so such as bar, ACCA, or even CLP. And so I don't want to burden my mother anymore because she's done everything for me. And so you know what I'm saying? Like I say, it's okay. I'll put a pause on that career first, and I'll start to accelerate. And jumping into essentially what drives me to materialize Accelerate, I think the right answer to that is just to give a little bit of background as to how my social entrepreneurship journey started. So essentially, it's not really a drastic shift, because I started my social entrepreneurship journey back when I was in the United Kingdom, as early as when I was 20 years old. Because when I was 20, I was actually appointed to become the president of a social enterprise based in my university called Enactus Essex. So I was handpicked by the board of directors and stakeholders of Enactus Essex to become the president. And I led a team of 104 members from different countries. My mandate was essentially macro-managing 5 social enterprises under me. They were based in the UK. They were also based internationally. And I know some of you might have heard about Enactus, because we do have Enactus in Malaysia as well. I work very closely with Enactus Unit 10. But just to share something unique about the Enactus team that I was leading back in the UK, was that it was a limited company of the university. So meaning we were generating revenue for the university, and I was 20, but I was essentially leading a company. I was reporting directly with the board of trustees of the university, board of members and stakeholders that came from numerous companies based in the United Kingdom. So I already had, the basis, sort of foundation about social entrepreneurship. And essentially when I came back and I decided to start Accelerate, it's just an extension of the career that I've already had when I was in the United Kingdom. So it's not necessarily a drastic shift. It was just an extension of my career that I had when I was in the UK. But really and truly, what drives me to start a social enterprise in Malaysia, it's because before I went to the United Kingdom, the only sort of entity, or I'd say, the only entity that I knew about when it comes to helping people was charity organizations. I never knew the concept of social entrepreneurship until I stepped in the United Kingdom, essentially, until I knew about Enactus. And so when I got to know Enactors, and I realized that, hey, you know what, you can change the world, you can help people while also achieving financial sustainability and also achieving financial security for yourself. And I'm sure all of you can relate to that. I don't see why not we shouldn't venture into that. It's a win-win, right? You're helping people, but you're also financially sustainable. There's no such thing as, oh God, I don't have money this month, I'm going to have to fundraise and everything like that. It's a business model that helps you to shape the world into a better place. And I'm like, I think this is an absolutely incredible idea. There is no reason why I shouldn't venture into that. So I think that particular element also contributed as to why exactly I started Accelerate. And another reason why I decided to start Accelerate, and I think this also goes back to my dream of becoming a criminal lawyer, even if I managed to, sort of secure my, essentially, my bar scholarship or anything like that, I would still have Accelerate alongside me. So essentially, it has always been, my career plan. It has always been sort of, at the back of my mind, I've always known that even if one day I become a criminal lawyer, I would still want to have a social enterprise alongside me. And so essentially, even if I go to court, I would still have Accelerate. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to start Accelerate was because I've always had this feeling whereby I cannot witness poverty. It just doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me. I just feel like, when you live in a world, I believe every single person deserves to at least have a sense of security whereby they know that, they have some money to at least buy lunch or to buy dinner. And I don't think it's fair for humanity. And I don't think it's fair that there is an inequality gap that exists where there are lots of rich people. However, there's a huge disparity between us and essentially the poor. And that's why I ventured into Accelerate. And that's why I pushes forward the idea of youth unemployment issue, because I believe once we're able to at least give these youth a sense of financial security, once we're able to shape this youth, make sure they can at least secure an employment, or, maybe we can also develop entrepreneurs. At the end of the day, they have that sense of financial security, and it means, it is sustainable impact. It's not just sort of a one-off help, or it's not just a one-off relief, essentially. So that is why I actually started Accelerate. And to be very honest with all of you, one thing that really drives me to keep going every single day, although there are very much many challenges when you sort of start social enterprises, right? One thing that actually keeps me going are my beneficiaries, actually. Just seeing, just seeing them, their spirit of actually wanting to change their lives, you'll feel something else. And it's what I feel every single day, waking up, knowing that, my beneficiary, Adam, who's a B40 youth, he doesn't have a laptop. His dad had to borrow a laptop from the office just so that he can sit in our session. And there was one week where his dad couldn't actually borrow a laptop and he had to use his smartphone. And, his smartphone is not iPhone. His smartphone is just, a very, I'd say, a Samsung.
Any other phones.
Any other phones than iPhones. Sorry now, right? So, and then he had to delete all the applications just to ensure he can download WhatsApp and Google Hangouts Meet. When you see spirit from these youths, you feel a different kind of contentment. The fire that they ignite in you is absolutely different. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yes.
So that's why.
Okay.
I can stop there because I think I'll just talk and talk.
Okay, let's move on to Vicky. Okay, I think she's been waiting for her turn now.
I'm so sorry, Vicky.
Speaking of youth, Vicky, you are still a student, okay, and you are running a social enterprise, Ibupreneur. Would you like to share with us what is it, okay, and then what motivates you to develop and how you measure social impact from Ibupreneur?
Okay. So just now I heard about what Rauda shared. So she mentioned about how she was how she started her social enterprise. So I think my passion is kind of similar to her on how I venture into social entrepreneurship. So I was also a member of Enactors in UUM.
Yes.
So I was mainly in charge of public relations, where I have to talk to stakeholders, all those public communications. So that's how I actually eventually have this passion into entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship. So speaking of youth, right? Yes, I am still a student and I've been running Ibrupreneur for about 8 months. But I honestly think that that shouldn't confine ourselves. Like, say, for example, we are just student and we should be just studying, just focusing solely on academics. Because I think nowadays youth can really play a huge role in contributing to the society. And hence why I think we should really change our mindset and we should go beyond our role as a student to make an impact towards the society. So Ibrupreneur is basically, we believe that moms are actually anchors to majority of the households. So we actually aim to empower all kinds of women, no matter whether or not, be it they are single moms, B40, retired, unemployed, or even have low EPF levels. So we aim to empower all kinds of women that are struggling in their own way, you know? So we hope that they will be financially independent and grow into micro entrepreneurs through their home ready skills. So what is home ready skills? So we know that our moms' traditional thinking, right? Our moms basically they have a job and also they have to manage households, right? So when the team first met, how it motivates us is that we have a common interest, which is women empowerment, and we had a common and we actually resonated that our moms, they actually struggle, and we witnessed how hard it is to support a family financially. So growing up, we actually couldn't do much. So we thought that, hey, actually they have skills, they have talent. Like my mom, she's a teacher. She can use her teaching skills as her part-time job in teaching tuition, right? And that's how when Ibrupreneur comes in, like we realized that one of our teammates, family members, she's very talented in baking. So that's how we kind of started Ibrupreneur, because we really want to empower them, increase their side income by using their home ready skills such as baking, teaching and all that, to really become a micro entrepreneur by themselves. So that is how Ibrupreneur really wants to empower these struggling women. And our social impact is very direct, because one of our moms, how we started Ibrupreneur is that one of our moms, she's a single mom, and she has adopted a daughter, and her husband has passed away since 5 months ago, since we started our project. So she actually solely depend on her husband's, her late husband's pension, which is 500 ringgit per month. So we think that, she's now the sole breadwinner of the family, but she has talent in baking. But she didn't have the skills, the basic business skills, to actually expand her business. So initially we promised her, when we first started our project in 3 months, we promised her an increment of 30% of sales. But we were beyond grateful that we were able to increase her sales by 128%. And since then, the team continues to, we pledge ourselves to, continue helping these women and expand our business, expand our social enterprise. Yeah.
Thank you, Vicky. Let's move on to second segment. We will now attend some questions which were posted by our audience. We have a few coming in now. All right. Okay. The first one is actually from Amirul from IIUM. Okay, I would like to address this question to Nini. Okay. The question is that while all of us have good intentions to help young people, some of the young people or youngsters just don't have that drive or motivation to gear up themselves to greater heights. So what is your thought?
My thoughts. They'll have to come for counseling with me.
Counseling.
No. I'm just kidding.
I'm saying him there.
I'm just kidding. But I think it's really about, at the end really is finding out what one's purpose is, right? So and I truly believe that one's purpose is to really become the best that we can be in this world and be able to therefore contribute to other people. But that's what I believe. So but I think generally everybody has that capability. It's just finding out what it is that they can do best and zoning in on that. So I think it's really about, when we talk about motivation, is a step-by-step process, because you need to want it first. So other people can only help you so much and meet you in between, but at the end of the day you have to be able to take that step forward first before other people can say, you've come forward, I'll come forward too. So it cannot be done without your own intentions of finding out how it is that I can do. Because at the end of the day, if I think we can't think of changing the world and looking at huge means of transformation. I think that one I feel pun I rasa I pun tak boleh. So, but how can you bring it down to that level where you can? So you look into areas where you can help just by, when you talk about the idea of sadaqah also, is as good as a smile, right? You can do that already. So I think if you go down the list of what you can do and how it affects other people, that's like Rauda mentioned and how Vicky mentioned. At the end of the day, is seeing, it's a selfish reason actually to look at how other people are very happy, because the idea of super happiness in other people is better than money. Okay, money can't buy the fact that you have contributed to someone else's happiness. So I think if you're able to celebrate little successes, celebrate the little things that you can do, and move forward in much bigger ways along the lines, and ensuring that you're always seeking for what it is that there are already best practices out there. There are already ways you can actually start off with little risk. So I feel at the end of the day, if you can do that, I think other people immediately, when people want to do good, inshallah, things will come to you. So it's a progress that I feel you need to do first, and then you can meet me and we'll go for chit chat once the COVID-19 is over. I'm very positive. So if not, we can always beraya and have chats. I think talking to all these people who are already doing it also helps. Give that there are a lot of sources of inspiration that you can start with. So that will be my general.
Okay, what about others? Rauda, Vicky, you want to chip in?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to echo what Ms. Farini mentioned. In fact, Ms. Farini, I think I'm going to send some of my beneficiaries to you for counseling. Yeah, it's just a joke. But essentially, I think I'm just going to echo what Ms. Farini mentioned. I think when it comes to youth, you see, and this is something that I tell my beneficiaries as well, no matter what I say, no matter what we teach, if you don't want to do something, I can only do as much. But really and truly, when I look into the perspective, from a youth as myself, because, I'm a youth and sometimes I don't want to do things as well, you see. And so sometimes when I look at it in the lenses of a youth, I realize that actually it's not that they don't want to do it, or it's not that they're not motivated to do it, It's just that they don't find a sense of purpose to do it. And so we're talking about sometimes, the youths that live in an environment where it's not supportive. And I think it's really a mistake for us to generalize that there are youths that do not want to change their lives, when really and truly, it's not that they don't want to change. It's because they don't see the purpose as to why they need to change, because they live in an environment where it is not supportive. I have seen youths, in fact, some of our beneficiaries, that I've worked with former sex trafficking women, I've worked with youths who are not in employment or education. And when we come to them and say, what, these are the things that you can do to change your life. And, the answers that I get are very, very heartbreaking, because some of them say, I don't want to do anything. I was a former sex trafficking woman. I used to try to apply for jobs, but no one wants me. So if the community doesn't want me, I'm not going to do anything anymore. And I think there needs to be a shift in our mindset perspective as well, whereby it's not that the youth do not want to change. It is because sometimes they have lost hope in humanity itself, because back then, when they wanted to change, no one was there to support them, which is why at Accelerate, we've got an entrepreneurship program and a career program as well. It's 4 months and a half long. The first month focuses very much on restoring their faith. focuses very much on restoring their faith, because I've seen from the perspective of the youth, and me myself, I've seen from my perspective, you know, there are times when you don't feel like you want to do anything. And I think as youth, we need to be very conscious and check, why is it there was this one time where we were not motivated to do something? And you will find there is a more underlying issue as opposed to just they are not motivated. I think that is a perspective that we need to change in our society.
Okay.
Sorry, can I just add?
Yes, please.
That's something also the old people face.
Yes.
So I don't think it should be limited to young people. We all face this. There's always an up and down in our lives. So, and it's as a result of all these other variables apart from ourselves. So I just wanted to note that, you know, in support of young people and the old and whoever else. I mean, this is life.
Okay, yeah, of course. I just started to involve myself personally in social entrepreneurship just only recently after, you know, when I start thinking about what will be the best topic for my research. So when I start Google up, you know, and then to find what is the in thing and what will be my next step, you know, in life. So I think that, oh, maybe it's about time to, you know, help the society, giving back or something like that. So that is how actually it all knitted lah. Okay. I want to ask Vicky about your challenges. Yeah, you see now that you're in campus, okay,
Yeah.
and then what sort of network that you require? You see, to prolong your journey here, to make sure that you can sustain. Maybe you can share something.
Sorry, the question was what sort of network opportunities that I need in uni itself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, to be honest, I would say that I cherish every opportunity that I get in my unit itself. So I first was exposed to external opportunities, like a larger opportunities out there in KL, because our unit is based in Kedah, right? So I think, first of all, I joined various organizations and clubs in my uni first, in my first year, and hence why I was exposed to the opportunities out there, you know. So I was firstly a member of Enactus in UUM, and I've been in Enactus UUM for about 3 years now, and I'm still a member.
Mm-hmm.
I think, first of all, the opportunities that I get in uni itself, I think it opens doors. It opens doors for me to explore greater opportunities. So I would like to thank all the clubs and organizations that is established in my uni itself. But also at the same time, I think there are a lot of gaps that we have not attended to. Say, for example, this is a bit off social entrepreneurship, but I actually co-founded another club which is related to IT. And to bring into UM, because we felt that, you know, there's a gap in between IT students as well as business students. But in this unprecedented pandemic situation, I think it is a very good opportunity, because how IT is very important in, like, you know, starting up a business. So I think the gap between like business students is that they lack the technical skills in you know, starting up a business, or they lack a technical skills, like, say, for example, an app development, GitHub, and all those IT skills. But for the IT students, they lack business pitching skills. So that's how I think that this is the opportunity where, you know, opportunity is really everywhere, and it's whether or not you want to pursue it. So even though there's no opportunity being thrown at you, just go out there and explore the opportunities on your own. So that's how, you know, I want to bridge the gap together between like a business and also like the IT field. Hence why I think opportunities are not created to come and find you and knock on your door, but it's actually you yourself. You have to be passionate and to pursue the opportunity on your own. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. I've actually there's a quite interesting question here, and it is from Azman Arifin. He's asking that how social enterprise can be viable and bankable in the financial situation in terms of financing if SC wants to grow in business. Okay, anybody wants to start?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Can I take that? because I'm in the situation
Go ahead.
where we are very much financially vulnerable. Yeah, so that's a very, very, very good question, I have to say. And the reason why I say that is because Accelerate faced that when the pandemic hit Malaysia. So something about Accelerate is that our bread and butter is our workshops and classes and workshops because, sorry, yeah, classes. I just repeated that. So essentially what we do is that the way we tackle youth unemployment issue is through our upskilling program, both entrepreneurship as well as a career program, and both are 4 months and a half long. And the way we handle these upskilling program are essentially physically, right? So in March, I remember we signed a couple of clients where we're supposed to deploy the entrepreneurship program physically starting May, but that didn't happen because of the pandemic. And so what happened was that we had to do a town hall, a real quick town hall, just among our small team, speak about, we're not going to have any income in the next couple of months because of the pandemic. What are we going to do?
Yes.
Meaning, even if we go to the bank, let's just say, right, in a situation, even if we go to the bank and ask for loans, we won't be eligible because nothing, right? There's no credit or whatever that is. There's nothing. So what I did with my team was that, you know what? It's time for us to take a step back and start small again. When I started Accelerate, I started with zero capital. But that didn't stop me from actually growing Accelerate. In fact, I used a zero-cost strategy whereby whatever profit we get from our first couple of workshops, they were pure profits, where we then reinvested into the company. I think when it comes to social entrepreneurship, it is very, very important for social entrepreneurs or everyone in the social entrepreneurship ecosystem to understand that even if, let's say, you don't really have a solid financial foundation, that shouldn't stop you from actually going the extra mile to achieve profit. At Accelerate, we advocate for low capital and high return. In fact, our beneficiaries are only given RM50 ringgit to start a business, nothing more, nothing less. And the reason why we do that is because we're trying to implement, an ecosystem where we translate that, money isn't everything. That 50 ringgit, you can triple that, or you can even make 5 times that if you know exactly how to essentially strategize your cost, making it cost efficient. So in terms of the long run, I believe that SEs with practices such as this will be able to be financially intelligent, even if they can, even they're workable for banks, even if they can go for banks and ask for loans, everything like that. At least the foundation that we have, whereby we believe that money isn't everything to start a business. 10 ringgit can start a business, 50 ringgit can start a business. With that kind of mentality, it can actually save you from a lot of collateral damage in the future. Yeah, so we will definitely be workable. We can definitely go to the banks in the future, but I think it's very important for you to set the stepping stone. I'd say, the foundation needs to be very solid, whereby you need to start ensuring that you need to be financially viable first without help from other people before even asking help, especially from the bank. That's from my personal point of view. In fact, now, because of the pandemic, we rolled out personal webinars online. We rolled out programs virtually. And alhamdulillah, we're running at a profit at the moment. Yeah, so it's okay. It's okay. It's going to be okay.
Nini,
Yeah.
anything, any thoughts from you?
I guess it really depends on the stage of the social enterprise, whether the early stage, as Rauda is in that situation. But the great thing about the pandemic is, I think everyone therefore is at early stage, because the conditions are new. There's a new norm that you're looking at. But I think it's about being really savvy about the tools that you already have and the strengths that you already have, and ensuring that you can still pursue businesses. I think a lot of social enterprises that we have been supporting have shifted and pivoted somehow to ensure that they meet the current demands. It's in crisis mode right now. So the bulk of the means of financing is mostly through donations. So while they have to still be able to provide as one would as a social enterprise, but I think the demand right now is to ensure that the well-being of everyone is provided for. So you're looking at a different area. There's a social enterprise that does barber. So it's a barber shop. So how in the world are you going to start business? You're not doing business at all right now. So what they've done is they've pivoted to ensure that they can provide hand sanitizers, masks. They're again pivoting to look into other areas which is relevant to the businesses. So there are many, many ways that as long as you're on your agile, I think the key word is being lean and agile. How can I be lean and agile? And we think about perhaps looking into, while it is cost cutting, we are actually thinking about how can I be efficient? How can I be effective in a very low cost manner, which I think is a very good business way of thinking. So if we are able to think about that from now and being able to ensure that perhaps whatever products and services that before this have been detrimental to the environment, for example, because I'm quite sure that while we meet some social obligations, we sometimes forget that there are implications to the environment. We're not thinking about how we actually can do that now. So if you are, it's very good news for people or investors out there who are actually looking for this type of solutions. They are not looking for, it's not purely based on consumption now. We are not purchasing because some items are non-essential right now. So I think that rethinking has allowed for a lot more impact investors overseas and also over here. I mean, there'll still be some 1% of the population with still quite a bunch of money, but they are caring a lot more about where they put their money. So I think there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to social enterprises who are keen in developing, whether it be digital or be even offline, because there's a lot of people who don't have internet access, who don't have devices, and it will take time for us to fulfill those gaps. So what do we do in the meantime? I'm a mother, right? So I have 3 kids running around. So thank goodness today they're not running around today behind me and screaming their heads off. But the idea is now as a parent, I'm more involved in the education of my children. So how can we guide parents to do this more? How can social enterprises provide that support, which I feel a lot of parents who are struggling are willing to pay for? Or how can education be something that can be done offline? How can it be more accessible? I like to see how climbing trees and harvesting fruits from the trees is part of the curriculum, for example. How can that, the idea of getting education outside versus it being purely in the classrooms is something that I feel social enterprises have the opportunity to think about. And these are the sort of things that are attracting investors. And in the long term, I feel that a lot of the investments will be very critical about whether or not the business, whether a social enterprise or not, are actually contributing positively or at least at zero net, the zero net carbon, at least at the impact net is zero. So you talk about sekarang ni there's funds by Khazanah, there's funds for, although a lot of it is for not so early stage companies, but there's crowdfunding platforms which social enterprises can also leverage off. I feel that there are a lot of opportunities. It can be a bit slower, but if you're lean and agile, then inshallah it'll be okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I add on to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Actually, I think that similar to the case where Rauda didn't she had like zero capital to start Accelerate.
Yes.
It's the same case for Ibupruna on how we started, because we are all youth, right? So we came together, we wanted to start a social enterprise. Initially was to start a social entrepreneurship project, but now it's a social enterprise. So how we started is that, we even forked out from our pocket, and we actually per person, maybe 50 ringgit to just invest in developing a website. So there's 5 of us that time, and we fork out, and it's around like 250 just for developing a website for a month. And we keep it running. And that's how, our profit, we are actually financially, earning profit from there, and then it's sustained. So it's okay to really fork out from your pocket and, just a small amount to start. Don't be afraid. And eventually, once people see the impact, like how I would like to echo Farini, like how if impact investors sees that there is an impact that your social enterprise is making towards the society, then eventually people will come and invest in your social enterprise, and you don't have to go for loan anymore. You will then get the money, Yeah, there are many opportunities out there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Actually, I received one questions from one of the lecturer. She's keen to seek your opinions. How does how academic can close the gap? Like working together with social enterprises out there. So because now we are in the university, in the campus, we are teaching the subjects, and not only in UUM, I believe there are many other IPTAs and IPTS are teaching such subjects. However, how do we close the gap? How do we get in touch or work closely together with the enterprises? Um, Maybe Nidhi wants to start. Oh, it's always you.
Weh, panjang lebar ni, nana lecture ni. No, because I'm very passionate about, because when you look at the blueprint, when you talk even about the blueprint of entrepreneurship within the country, there's no mention of universities, right? So obviously, I was thinking, right, how is that possible? Because when you look at the talent pool, there's a huge number of bodies within universities, and I'm not talking about just bodies. I'm talking about the intellect and the fact that they have a lot of talents that they can actually use to look into more. You know, how can we look into universities as a breeding ground for entrepreneurs, and obviously for me is social entrepreneurs. One is the fact that universities have a lot of labs. How do we make sure that we open those labs and those opportunities, not only just for the students, but how do you create the environment where you feel that the community around you or the society around you can also be a participant? Because at the end of the day, when you talk about really, practical, being practical about what it is that you learn, is how can you get more exposure to what real life is. So, because I would love to have the facilities open for me within the lab, within the lab setting, or within, like Enactus has always been our, it's a very great entry point for us. We go to a lot of Enactus around the in Malaysia, but it really depends again on the leadership at Enactus level. So UUM is hardcore, like Kau very active. I know because we get proposals all the time from UUM. We have a lot of Unitan, sometimes ada, sometimes tak ada. But I guess same thing with any organizations. It really depends on the leadership and whether or not they want to be able to pursue it as a initiative or as a business. So we like to see how from those initiatives they can mature to become good social enterprises, because you already have this great pool of ideas and great pool of people who may or may not want to pursue it, but how can other people within other industries come and see and take a look and say, I can take this up, do a joint venture. But I guess it really depends on also the internal KPIs of the respective universities.
Yeah.
What is it that you're looking for? Are you looking at only the creation of enterprises, only the creation of social enterprises, without looking into perhaps business continuity or the sustainability of the initiative from point of project to the point of enterprise? So there's research. I would love to have access, for example, research through banyak orang janji, saya akan research to social enterprise. I will let you know the outcome of the result, and they never come back to us.
Oh.
Very sedih. So not because of anything, because we want to be able to see how we can together,
Yes.
all our combined efforts can move forward as opposed to looking only at what historically we've done. There's a lot of historical things that has been achieved and we can actually learn from, but from that process, how do we therefore move forward, either as a social enterprise or as a community of social enterprises? And right now, a lot of it is still limited again to the the profit centers in Malaysia, when the Klang Valley, Penang, or Johor. Everybody else is like, where are they? What about Sabah and Sarawak, for example, which I feel there's a lot of talent, but we are not there. So the universities have a huge network. How do you develop those networks? So it's no longer, we have a network called the Social Business Malaysia. So it's a network of 16 other universities. But we don't want it to be a case where, my research is my research, or enterprise ni aku yang punya. I'm not saying that it applies to all. But there's a certain degree of being very territorial. I think because at the end of the KPIs of each university, because they all want to be the top 10, top 50, right? So I'm sorry, I'm being honest. I hope all my friends in the academia are not going to hate me for this.
That's cool. I mean,
it's it's also about cross fertilization. When you talk about social enterprise, bawa business school. We talk about social enterprise everywhere I go. UM is immediately under a certain faculty. But when you really talk about business, you need to have the engineers, you need to have social scientists, you need to have even linguists, you need to have the psychologists to also be on board and be part of this. So the knowledge and the awareness cannot be only limited to just one certain faculty.
Correct.
How can we expand it? Yeah. Then of course it's richer. When you look at cross fertilization of ideas within faculty members, and even an age. I've had young kids in secondary schools come up with much better ideas than the university peers.
Wow, that's bad.
Yeah, not because of anything, but I think it's also dari segi priority and dari segi whether or not you're risk adverse. The older you get, for some reason, the more risk adverse you are, unfortunately. Unless you are like Rauda, you're like Vicky, you're exposed to the idea that, you know what, aku redah je lah, because I become the entrepreneur. And I mean, these are the entrepreneurs. Yeah, bulldoze, and I'm going to do like 2,000 things. I have hustles. I think based on what I see from Rauda and Vicky, it's not just one thing that they'll be doing. When you talk about impact, it's multifaceted. There's so many areas. When you talk about poverty, it's multidimensional. You can't just look at one area. There's so many other areas that we need to take the list when you talk about poverty. It's nutrition, it's about, whether it is food security. People don't go to school because there's not enough food on the table, whether or not, their parents, because they don't have enough money, are getting their kids to continue to work with them as opposed to sending them to school. So there are many, many things which I feel the university can play a role. How can there be that breeding ground yang macam yeast tau? Yeast tu terus berkembang jadi, now I'm talking about yeast and bread because nowadays I'm also a bread maker. Thanks to MCO. Yeah. So, it has to explode that way because sayang, you have all these intellectual people, you have the academia, you have the networks within the academia, you have your university, you have your collaboration with all the sectors. But how can we talk? The language that we need to talk has to be different. When you talk about research and you talk about, it's only pertaining to because companies are looking at high tech, high impact. What does that mean within the context of society? What does that mean in the context of young people? And how can they contribute? We have to look at how young people contribute now and here, as opposed to, they all kena melalui proses pembelajaran selama 3 tahun, No, for me, you can start a business or think like a business person when you're already 12. You can already start. So why it's as if kalau business saja is for those who cannot find a job, and it's like, such a bad thing. So again, it's about how can we convey the messaging has to be very different in university, saying that yes, I think in some part you're already doing it very well, that you're promoting the idea of social entrepreneurship. And yes, it doesn't necessarily have to be for everyone, but the idea that yes, you have to be able to think as a social entrepreneur across the board. Whether you're an engineer, whether you're a physician in a lab, a lawyer definitely. See already. So, and I love the idea of what Vicky said about IT, the idea that you can amalgamate IT with business, because guess what? In the real world, we need all these things.
Yes.
We need to be able, and communication and being able to communicate with people from all these faculties has to start now. Tak boleh accounting students only, and that's where all the stereotyping of marketing, accounting, lawyers, semua.
All the professionals.
You see the tribes all about the same mold. I don't know lah. So let's break those stereotypes. So I think sayang. For me, the aim is how can we get universities to be part of the entrepreneurship blueprint? So what does that mean? Speed. University got speed or not?
Okay, let's end this segment.
Yes, habis mampu ni
End this segment. I'm going to.
Sorry, I actually wanted to say something about that.
I have a question for you coming this third segment. Okay, you hold your horses. Okay, let's. We have come to the third segment now. Okay, the question is to you, Rauda. Okay, and also to Vicky. All right, you both are actively involved in student activities while studying. So how do you manage your time being a student, social entrepreneur, and at the same time, managing yourself as a young woman, going out, and all that. Okay, so Share.
Yeah. Wakey, can I start first? Yeah, okay, cool. I got this question, the same question was posed to me last Saturday when I was giving a talk with KPMG UKM. And I'm still going to give the same answer because it's the answer that I've always been practicing. I'd like to respectfully challenge that question, because I think the right question that youths or even the society or even the wider public need to start asking people is not the how, because the how is important. You need to look into the bigger picture. And the question that you need to ask yourself is what and why? Because I can come here and I can tell you, this is how I managed my time. A, B, C, D. I wake up at 6, I do this at 10, then after that I do it at 2. But no matter whatever golden tips or golden tickets I give the audience, it won't work if you yourself do not know exactly why you want to manage your time in the first place. The reason why I say that is because when you want to manage your time doing, let's say, 10 things at once, that particular thing that you want to drive forward in your life, it's not easy. And to be frank with all of you, it is difficult. And I'd like to derive an example when I was in university. You know, when I was leading an actors team, I remember that I had a board meeting on the same day because there was an internal dispute. You know, I led 104 teams, so there's lots of dispute that happens sometimes, even on a weekly basis. So I had to go to the board because there was a fraud that happened in the company. Yeah, and of course, I have to answer the question because I'm the president. So I had to attend the board meeting as early as 7 o'clock in the morning, went to the office, clocked in, hi, yes, okay, I answer question. But on the same day, at 9 in the morning, I had to switch my hats and become a student again, because at 9 in the morning, I had a court session. When I was in the UK, I didn't have, well, there was one module where there was no written examination. I had to go to court. I dealt with a real client. The result of that case, the judgment from the judge will be my marks as my final year mark. So there's a pressure there. Okay, so I was like, oh my goodness, if I screw up this case, the client is going down, I'm going down too, you know? Yeah. So in that situation, it's no longer about managing time. It's about managing your emotions. It's about compartmentalization, and it's about having the power to change your hats there and then without looking back or without having to worry about anything when you are in that point of time. Yeah. And I'm just being frank, you know, because I'm sure the audience are all absolutely amazing, incredible, aspiring entrepreneurs, and you will be facing these things, if not now, later in your life. When it comes to those things, when you are faced with a challenge whereby you need not just manage your time, you need to manage your energy, your mind, and your emotions, the how don't matter anymore. Your why matters. Why exactly are you doing that? Why do you need to manage this? Why do I need to step out of this board meeting and go into that court session? Why do I need to do enactors in the first place? Right? I could have not taken the job. I could have just studied law. Okay. So I could have just, you know, it's okay, Latana, you know, but I did that. Why? Because at that point I knew I was a government scholar. I hold a responsibility of my citizens' money. There needs to be an ROI when I come back. And that experience leading a limited company abroad, 104 teams of different nationalities, that is a different experience altogether that I won't get in Malaysia. I need to be able to ensure that I do it well so that I can come back and share my experiences with the citizens. I can come back and contribute to the society, right? So I need to be able to manage that. And I was deeply rooted in my purpose. And for the law degree, I have to do that. Again, I'm a government scholar. There's a sense of responsibility then. I also was doing it for myself. So in terms of how do we manage time, or, you know, in fact, how to do anything, I think all of us, including myself, and this is a reminder to myself too, we need to start shifting our mindset. We need to start focusing on the how and start thinking about your what and your why. A lot of times, especially youths, including myself, we tend to focus and be engrossed in the how that we put a pause on all our dreams because we're scared that we don't know how to do it. When really and truly your purpose will drive you forward. Your purpose will create that path for you. When I took the presidency role and I led the team for 3 years, when I was called into the board meeting and the stakeholders said, you know what, we chose you to be the president, I didn't know how to do it. Okay, I was 20 and I'm like, what? It's a limited company. Excuse me, boleh ke ni? I didn't know how to do it. In fact, just to share with all of you, I was the first Asian and Muslim that was ever appointed to be in that position. So I dealt with racism. I was harassed verbally when I was fundraising for the company. You know, I was on the stage, I was fundraising, I was pitching to the investors to give in money to an actress Essex. I was verbally harassed about my hijab. I was wearing hijab. But I managed to go through all that, you know, managing time, managing energy, because I was deeply rooted in purpose. And I think that is something that a lot of us youths need to have. Stop focusing on the how, darling, because sometimes you don't know how to do a lot of things in your life. Okay, I don't know how to do a lot of things in my life. Let's be real. You know.
What about you, Vicky?
Drives-
Anything from you?
Yeah, I would like to actually echo to what Radha has said, because that I can resonate that very well. So meaning I was running Ablepreneur at the first stage, right? It was actually during my exam period as well. So I was actually, running on like, 3 to 4 hours of sleep. But not to say like I want to brag about like how less sleep that I'm getting, but it's really about, it's not just about time management. Yes, even though time management is important, but I wouldn't say it's an easy journey, because I personally think that apart from managing your emotions well, apart from managing your time well, most importantly is, yes, you need to know what you're passionate about. Because say for example, if you don't know what you're passionate about, and you don't really or say for example you're not passionate in doing something, so it's really hard to manage your time from there, and it's really hard to go about manage your emotions and get things done. So one tip from me is that how do you discover your passion, right? So I think, yes, changing of mindset is important. So just go out there, explore different opportunities that is available, readily available out there. And if you realize that you spend less time in completing one task compared to another task that has been given to you for like weeks, then boom, you found your passion, right? Yeah. So I think most importantly is that time management is important, emotions management important as well. But yes, most importantly, what are you passionate about? And hence, from there onwards, you can succeed. Yeah.
Thank you. Right. I have the next question is actually will be dedicated to Nini. In your years of engaging with the youth, yeah, you have met and worked with many aspiring social entrepreneurs. So, what competencies that you think we are still lacking? Okay, and what are the main barriers to the development of innovation? Okay, in Malaysia, that should be improved in pro-innovation economic policy. Ah.
Maai.
Economic
Aduh.
policy.
Okay, where do I start? That's a whole segment altogether, man. I mean, especially the second part, when you talk about innovation, that has been an ongoing discussion since a long time, because innovation is such a key thing within our, the economic planning. It is key for any, because if we don't innovate, then it's difficult for us to progress, I feel. But innovate for what sake? So I think that's the question that we need to ask. Again, it's back to purpose. Why are we innovating, and for what purpose do we intend to achieve? So when you talk about innovation within the social aspect, I feel that there's a lot more that we can actually do as a country in ensuring that at least one is the first thing is about data. How we can't innovate more precisely or more accurately if we don't have data coming together where we can actually collect, and where everything can come together for us to be able to analyze to a certain degree. Because I think data analytics will play a key role in defining how we move forward, and also whether or not we're able to get into impact measurement, which is a different thing altogether. Because what do we measure therefore, right? And there's nothing right now, as I see, that is at national level. There's no KPIs for impact. There's no SRI for Malaysia. So if there's no SRI for Malaysia, then there's no way for us to determine where social entrepreneurs should go when you talk about providing
social economy.
Social economy, yes. But you have the SDGs as well, right? So you have all these ESGs. You have corporate bodies who need to abide by SC's, not SC's, SC juga, Bursa's evaluation of what your impact is. So there's a lot of, so that means it requires, is very sophisticated, but for what? Right, you have all these means, but how can we make sure that it's available for layman people and be able to understand how can they also play a part in is the idea of grassroots social innovation. Because I feel you shouldn't just leave it to high tech high impact companies to provide for social impact. There's a way where other people, students, everybody can be a part of creating social impact as well. So again, is then you have to go back down to the, how does education facilitate this process? How does funding facilitate this process? Now I also forgot what the first question was. Competencies of a social enterprise. We've met a lot of social entrepreneurs, or would be or want to be social entrepreneurs. So I think over the years, initially, a lot of them were they want to be CEOs. So the motivation was not on the why, it was motivated by aku nak CEO depan nama aku so that it looks good in my CV.
CEO and founder.
CEO founder bagai lah, but again, is for me is totally alright. But then the day is your work will speak for itself. So but I think that's a process of discovery also for young people. Dulu pun I may have gone through those point in time where I felt like, I think it's a process, but we've seen less of it over the years. So more of it is about discussing about how do I really affect change in these communities? How can I change the life of others above and beyond the fact that they want that designation? So that competency, I feel, is not competency lah, but I feel that also business, at the end of the day, with any business, is really about whether or not you have you're savvy as far as business concerned. And if savviness is not only learned, you can't necessarily only learn it through a workshop or a webinar. You have to be able to practice it. You have to be able to do it on the ground and really see for yourself what the process is and understand how it has affected the people. Because a lot of the times what we fail to do is we forget to ask the beneficiaries and the stakeholders, the people around them. So I think that's part and parcel of asking the right questions when you talk about social measuring. I'm not looking at social measurement just for the pure, you just want to get the index ratio. It's not that numbers game, but it's the fact that is whether or not we truly understand what is the sort of impact, both negative and positive. Because for every positive, I'm sure in doing or manufacturing products and services, there is going to be some element of negative impact as well. Whether or not we are aware that all the things when we step on Earth, there's a carbon footprint. So how are we not necessarily just offsetting it, but how do we ensure that the positive is more than the negative that we do? So I think that's right now what it's not lacking lah, but I think it's a process again. A lot of entrepreneurs are at the early stage. So for me, early stage is the most exciting as well, because that's the time where you can make those mistakes and learn from that mistake. It's when you scale up, right? When you scale, that's a whole different ball game altogether. And whether or not we're ready to face from early stage to pre-seed, early stage to to more mature. So again, is when you look at scale, that's a different level of competency. I feel right now that early stage, there's some level of assistance that is provided, but we need to ensure that the ones who have stood the test of time, creating impact, how can we support them so that they can actually scale and grow? And right now there's no funding for them at this point. There is crowdfunding, there is crowdfunding equity, but how can we also support them to transition very smoothly and ensure that the sort of impact that they want to be able to achieve can be sustained as well. So so again, masing-masing entrepreneurs masing-masing lain. So I think for entrepreneurs journey ni semua berbeza. Again, it's whether or not you're faster, you're more savvy. When we assess the enterprise, we assess the entrepreneurs first and foremost, and that's for purposes of us giving out some whatever funds that we have. We want to know that even if they fail in that current project or that current initiative, they say, you know what, if I do this differently, I can do it better. And so we are not scared of them saying that, the entire, the entire body initial premise has changed, because we are with the entrepreneur. We believe in what the entrepreneur does. So
Okay.
again, we learn with them.
Yes. Also, it's about how we feel. Okay, it's about how we feel and feel empathy about the situations, and only we can relate, the right business models, to our target group lah. Okay, I have next questions. Okay, let's move on to the next questions to Rauda. As Asians, some youth are shy and timid to seek and explore new ideas. So what more pursuing them? What do you have to say to those who keep their wild ideas inside them and locking it and let it fade away? So what do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to start by saying that I'm Asian. I was abroad, but Alhamdulillah, I managed to make it big abroad. So if I can do it, then I'm pretty sure you can do it even better than me. Okay, so I think I just want to put it out there, because I think a lot of youths, they just seek inspiration. And, people here are inspiration. Yourself, Dr. Sharina Wakey, Miss Farini. I think sometimes a lot of us youths, we just need to see someone that made it in life. And so we then feel a bit of security there. So I just wanted to put it out there that, I'm Asian. I held the position and I didn't know how to do it, but alhamdulillah, I made it. In fact, just to share with everyone out there, I took the team to top 3 social enterprise in the United Kingdom. So, and I didn't know how to do it in the first place. All right. So if I can do it, then I'm pretty sure you can too. In regards to the question that Dr. Sharina posed, I must say that I don't think Asian youths are timid, nor are they shy. Rather, they fear the unknown. When it comes to pursuing a wild idea, when it comes to pursuing something that they've never pursued before, it's terrifying. It's scary. You don't know what's going to happen next. Is it going to work out? Is it not going to work out? And so this youth, they just keep or bottle down all these wild ideas to themselves, holding them tight, right? And they're not taking any action because they're terrified. Not because they're shy or they're timid. They're just terrified of what's on the other side of the tunnel. It's like this. So I think the analogy that I can give is that in order for you to make an omelette, you need to break the egg first. But breaking the egg sometimes is scary, and so youths don't want to take that first step. Yeah, it's like, oh God, what's going to happen to that egg or something. Yeah. So the advice that I can give is that when you fail, when you're terrified, the only thing that can comfort you is for you to find a sense of security, a sense of certainty. We're all human beings. And I don't think it's just youth. I think it's everyone. Even when I grow older, I think I will still want some sense of security or certainty. And so if that is the case, what us youths need to do is that we need to start relying on something that is more eternal. You see? So for example, I'm a Muslim, and so my God is Allah. He is the one that I rely upon whenever I want to make big choices in life, or that wild, crazy ideas that I want to pursue when I don't know what's on the other side of the tunnel. We don't know what's on the other side of the tunnel until we cross it. But the problem with youth is that they don't want to cross it because they're scared. Now, for us to essentially manage the fear is to find a sense of security whereby we can rely back on and say, hey, you know what? It's okay because someone else is going to protect me. We're human beings. We like that. We want some sense of protection. And it's only fair for me to give advice to all those tuning in is that particular reliance that you're trying to find is only on God. It's not fair for me to say, go back to your family, go back to your friends, because at the end of the day, they're not eternal.
I really hope my students are listening now,
Thank you, doctor. Something that will drive you forward, no matter whatever challenges you go through, right, is Allah, for me, God. And I think something that I do want to share as well is that why are you scared to take that first step when really and truly your God is magnificent, is benevolent? He created you. It means you are magnificent and you are benevolent too. If you don't take that step, if you are scared, it is as though you're insulting your creator when he has given you all the power in the world for you to be someone in this life.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. No, but really and truly, that drives me forward, Dr. Sharina, every single day. Like
That's supposed to be.
the challenges are massive. It's big. sometimes
Yes,
you feel
agreed.
very lonely in the journey. And I think Wakey and Miss Farini can relate to this as well. The entrepreneurship journey is sometimes lonely. And so you need to be relying on something eternal. And for me personally, whenever I want to make that first step, that scary, terrifying step, I always go back to my religion. And this is one particular, ayah in the Quran that drives me forward. And that is the fact that if you do righteous deeds, Allah promise you succession, whatever the succession is. And so why are you scared to take that first step? So I think youths are not shy. They're not timid. They're just looking for that sense of security or that sense of certainty that, okay, things are going to be okay, even though I take this big step, right? And that sense of security you can only get when you find something that is eternal. I can't tell you that things are going to be okay because things are sometimes not going to be okay,
Yeah.
So the only thing you can rely on is God. To be very honest with you, Dr. Shari, our panel and audience, I'm getting closer to the religion when I venture into entrepreneurship because entrepreneurship is risky. You're talking about
Thank
not having
you.
income, maybe, we don't know, right? Pandemic happened, oh my God, I'm going to have to cut your salary, no salary this month. So those things, the only thing that you can fall back on essentially is a lot. And just one last thing, Dr. Sharina, before I pass to Wakey, is that, remember when I mentioned earlier that I experienced racism, terrible, terrible racism, all right? My hijab was pulled, blah, blah, terrible things happened, yeah? Some people even fabricated evidence of me writing an email saying bad things about my team because I'm a Muslim. Those things happen. But alhamdulillah, I braced through that, took the team to top 3 in the UK. I won team leader of the year. I was the first Asian, first hijabi that went up the stage to take that award. I was invited to the Parliament of the UK to speak about youth productivity. Again, I was the only hijabi. And so if I can do all that abroad, Asian, Muslim, there was Islamophobia there. What is stopping you when you are in your home country? There are people supporting you, me, Miss Farini, Wakey, Dr. Sharina, everyone in UUM, this is to the students. People are supporting you. Don't be scared. Just take that first step. Rely on the eternal and believe in
I
it.
have these wonderful questions that I cannot hold on.
Okay, yes.
Okay, and it's open to everybody. Okay, I have this from Wen Yun Feng. Yeah, she's saying, "Hi, Wonder Ladies. Do you believe that women will be better than men to become SE?"
Oh my goodness, guys. That is so controversial. The 18-year-old me would say, hell yes. But the 24-year-old me is saying that I think it's time for us to look at things in a more neutral way. Both men and women, we both have our own strengths. I think when it comes to feminism and when it comes to gender equality, although it's very much needed respectfully, and I've got my peers, empowering women to close the gap of gender inequality. I think we're living in 2020. For us to break that gap is for both men and women to see their strengths. Because there are things that I cannot do, as a female. There are also things that male cannot do as a male. And so I think it's about time for us to look at things in a more neutral perspective. There's a reason why God created male and female in the first place.
What
Yeah,
about
I agree.
what
I
about
agree that
I mean,
I agree
you
that
have been,
gender equality is something that I am I'm an advocate for because me myself, like I'm in women empowerment, and I personally think that women empowerment has been always being said. It's more about women supporting women, but I think nowadays it's not just comparing men and women because of course there are some things that men cannot do and there are some things that women can do, and hence that is why it should be equal where we support each other, and I think in this in the current situation, I think women empowerment has been always being brought up, and I think it's always women who are involved in the conversation. But what about men? I think men should be more involved in women empowerment as well. And if not, I think in the future, there'll be another cycle of men empowerment instead. So,
Agreed,
the
Wakey.
yeah. So the
It's like
cycle goes.
Dr. Shari, just to share, I worked with former male sex trafficking, and no one's fighting for them because we're too busy fighting for women. I'm so sorry. I'm a woman and I love it. Empower women. Yeah, go. I'm like, all that, yeah. But I think we need to address that as well. There are male being raped. I read criminal cases before. I dealt with one client before. He is 15. He was raped by one of his family members, and no one believed him because he's a male. So what are we doing really? When we fight for gender equality, are we looking to respect both gender, or are we just being selfish to fight for our own rights? Because that's not right in humanity.
Nini,
Well, I'm still for women taking over.
yeah.
Not because it's, I'm not talking about whether or not it's equality or inequalities. That's not the basis. Because I feel we need to be able to take over because we have our strengths, and our strengths really lie in the fact that we have more empathy. So, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. It's obviously your team has to be made of a very diverse group. But in decision making for now, we're always saying that we need to look at 30%. Why 30% for Nila? It should be more. As within our existing, within our current context in the current scenarios, decisions will need to factor in, because in the more diverse group, obviously, but that's where women needs to play a major role, because there are not enough women the in boards. It's as simple as there's not enough women representation in boards, not because they're women, but because the voices and the sort of experience that we have, and the way that we think is very different. So I still believe that there's still a long way that long way to reach that level where, when you talk about equality and I think it's about opportunity. How can we get more opportunities for for people to actually pursue this? There's a difficulty in getting leadership in boards for now. You have to go through a process of, there's a leadership just purely for boards, public listed companies. Can we look at different criteria then? I mean, are there criteria currently that are pre-existing from many, many years ago, which only consider certain aspects of decision making? So I definitely feel that there needs to be a change in ensuring that there's enough diversity in all cases, and that's where women have to take over. Because I don't think women are moving forward, or I don't want to say aggressive or assertive pun. Kalau kita assertive, kita dibilang aggressive. So I think it's for us to to showcase that with empathy, especially now. I think this is very critical, where women have to say, we have a role in this. We have met with success as far as creating impact is concerned. And when you look at maybe 3 years ago, social enterprises, at least 50% or 60% within the NGO CSO sphere are driven by women. So how do we change that in normal or mainstream business with the fact that we have to be more socially and environmentally conscious? So I mean, women power kena masih lagi perlu, we still need to drive it down, but I do agree that actually sebenarnya we need a kementerian lelaki. Because I don't think they know how to handle this. The fact that empowering is not taking over, empowering is being together with you, and so I don't. While many modern men are very supportive, but how again is at decision making level. How do we change mindsets at that level so that the decision making can be it can be more diverse and more. There's a lot more empathy in our decision making.
Okay, thank you very much. I have one question that is concerning this recent pandemic. That actually our situation now has left many of us to reinvent ourselves. We see the demand for reducing inequalities, diminishing poverty, and essential fostering community spirit grows. So therefore, it is vital to think about new and innovative economic models, particularly on that is actually cost effective, yet maintaining its high impact. So what are your thoughts about this?
Ms.
Anybody?
Farini, Wiki, anyone wants to start first?
Go ahead.
Okay. okay, cool. I think it's absolutely fantastic, of course, and I think everyone can agree with me, just seeing everyone doing something to essentially bridge the gap of inequality, making sure that things are still running, making sure that humanity is still persevered in this pandemic. It's absolutely incredible. In fact, shout out to everyone who's doing that. Absolutely amazing. Keep doing what you do. I think the only key advice that I can give to those who are in the pursuit of actually, bridging this inequality gap and everything like that in this pandemic arena is to think more about about sustainability. So I think a lot of us sometimes when we are in the pandemic, we're just thinking about, what is the immediate relief or what is the short-term relief, right? Which is needed, respectfully. That's absolutely amazing because someone needs to do that, because I think a lot of us are just thinking about the sustainability and the long-term impact of that. But whilst we also think about, the short-term relief and immediate relief, there needs to also be an element of sustainability that we need to take into account as well. Meaning, in 2 years or in 1 year and a half time, what's going to happen to this target audience that you are helping with, let's say, for example, immediate relief. The reason why I say that is because sustainability is key, especially when you want to address impact that has, effects that has a long-term impact due to the pandemic, both on the economy as well as socially as well. Because the reason why I say that, because the more people giving short-term reliefs or immediate reliefs, we're just putting a band-aid on the problem. You see? And when the time comes when we have to take out that band-aid, it's going to hurt so much and it's going to cause collateral damage. So what are the sustainability elements that you can bring forward in order to essentially, address the effects of the pandemic? For example, at Accelerate Global, the way we address youth unemployment right now, we work hand in hand with a Polytechnic department under the Ministry of Higher Education to deploy a virtual entrepreneurship program to ensure that the B40 youths who are affected, who no longer have their part-time jobs, who no longer have that internship that they were promised before the pandemic, for them to start a small business so they have financial security at least until the end of the year, until the next year. We deployed a program last 2 weeks and we already have successful beneficiaries who are now making queer. Some of them are selling crepe and everything like that, So at least we know that the COVID-19 response that we give, it has a sustainable impact of at least 1 year long. So that is the way we measure it. At least, the youth unemployment, although it is there because we are in recession right now, without us realizing or without us knowing, we are already in recession. So what can we do to ensure that in 1 or 2 years' time, they can still be financially sustainable? So the only advice I can give is think about the sustainability whilst also deploying the short-term relief. But kudos to everyone who's doing incredible. We need more of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
I would like to add on to that if time permits. Yeah, so
Yes.
actually being an SE, I think there's no clear line between whether or not it's for the impact or it's for the profit. So for me, I echo what Radha said, it's always the impact. So the impact always comes first before the profit for me, because I've been running Evopreneur for 8 months and we have not taken a salary cut yet. But we still enjoy whatever that we are doing it, because we have been reinvesting our salary cut into our social enterprise, because we can see how happy our beneficiaries are whenever a sales comes in. Yes. So I think, to make sure that the business, however, to make sure that there's sustainable impact, make sure that the business model works, because in order to ensure that in the long run, an impact in the long run, then the business model has to be workable, and then your social enterprise will stay for itself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Vicky. All right, so that's about it in segment 3. Okay, that's about it in segment 3. In segment 4, it's actually I'm giving each and one of every panelist, if you want to share your takeaways lah, yeah. So maybe we can start with Nini first, and then Rauda, and then Vicky.
Yang muda-muda dulu lah.
You dulu lah, you paling muda.
Paling muda. I think my key takeaways, I think the pandemic is like a reset button. A lot of people say it's like Thanos. There's a Thanos button, and in his intentions was to, the idea is to reset it so that it gives us a chance to ensure that the sustainability, right? It was an issue of sustainability. So I think this is the opportunity for us to rethink about how we do business, and what it is, what's the purpose of our business when we want to be able to start any initiatives. And we think about the consequences of all our actions when it comes to purchasing, when it comes to procuring. Because all of this has, it accumulates to something perhaps that we may not see as an individual, but together we're able to see that right now we're able to see that there's so many gaps already. So again, is when we see those gaps, are we taking the responsibility to fill those gaps responsibly? As either individuals or as a business owner or as, you know, whatever role that you play. So as a social enterprise, I think it's very, very difficult, you know, for a lot of our early stage companies, the ones that we've supported. They are looking into, you know, is about providing livelihoods to the existing employees who are also from the B40. So for me, it's wonderful to be able to see how they've been very savvy, despite the fact that they may not have all the knowledge, they may not have the Harvard business degrees or whatever else, but because they have their feet and you know, they are themselves on the ground and are really able to understand at least what are the sort of impacts that they are able to achieve within their communities. I think collectively then we'll be able to make a lot of changes. So I guess for me at the end of the day is for us to be able to observe all of this and to be able to record how is it that eventually, you know, whether or not we want to be able to, you know, provide unemployment opportunities within the 1 year, how can that be a thought process that you keep thinking of? Because when you talk about youth employability, is always, when I see, is already very limited to a certain set of things, right? And how do we look into polytechs who offer a lot of things vocationally? How can we elevate their status of contributing citizens and not just like, oh, you know, siapa yang fail SBM or whatever. So this is, I feel, again, before this we're already talking about this, but the pandemic says, you know what, you have to speed this up. Because if we continue doing the same thing that we've been doing over the past many centuries, nothing will change. Because guess what? I feel that you know, I agree with the fact that there'll be other pandemics. There'll be other occasions where we'll be able to we'll need to face even greater challenges. So how do we ensure that we learn from this process, we become better entrepreneurs, we are able to look into measuring impacts either as individual, a social enterprise, or even at national level. So my key takeaway is it's going to be super hard, without a doubt. Ni pun dok kira-kira, alamak, you know, how can we stretch enough of the existing resources that have to ensure that we're as efficient and effective? And it's super hard, super hard. So I know right now a lot of social entrepreneurs pun are professional beggars. So, and the great thing about professional beggars, yes, muka tebal macam ni kan, which I think is a necessary requirement now. But the thing is, we are so generous as Asians, as Malaysians. And again, is donations. How can we look at donations? Yes, like as mentioned by Rhoda, as for current short term, for crisis relief. How can we move on to ensure that because the crisis, I feel, is going to take long. It's 1 year, 2 years. So we have to be able to think about medium term and long term already, utilizing all those resources that kind, generous people have been giving. So again, this is the opportunity for people to say, yes, donate, but guess what? We can actually put this in existing social enterprises who are changing and affecting lives of other people in a much longer term. That would be my main key.
Yeah, thanks. That's a solid one from Nini. Rhoda?
Yeah, I think my personal key takeaway is that there needs to be a lot of collaboration between social entrepreneurs and academicians as well. I think it's just referring to what Dr. Sharina was mentioning about, you know, how exactly can university become better in fostering the social entrepreneurship ecosystem. If I may, Dr. Sharina, I am working directly with the Polytechnic department. And to be very honest with you, I think then there's a not miscommunication, there is an omission in the communication there, because when I work with Polytechnic department, they have deployed social entrepreneurship curriculum, and they're engaging with social entrepreneurs such as myself to come in and actually do something about it. So they are taking, you know, at least the first step. You know, I don't know how deep or how deeper they've dived into that essentially, but they have taken that first step. And I think there needs to be a communication between all university, all polytechnics, because once everyone comes together, sit in one room and do something about it, that's when things are going to get bigger. So I think that's one of the things that I've thought about throughout the entire session, because to be very honest with you, Malaysian social entrepreneurship ecosystem, regardless when people say it's not that big, it's not that strong, to be very honest with you, we have a lot of amazing social entrepreneurs. I think the missing key element there is just essentially getting everyone in one room, discuss about it, and do something nationwide, essentially. I think that's my personal takeaway. Yeah. Or maybe because I'm still new in the social entrepreneurship ecosystem and I'm not too sure, but essentially that's how I personally feel about how we should drive the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the country.
Thank you, Rhoda. Vicky?
Okay, as for me, my key takeaway would be I think that the existence of social enterprises are something that is very controversial. Why? Because if you think about it, if there are more social enterprises out there, does that mean that the core problems of the society remain unresolved, right? So actually, I think it's not to say that it shouldn't stop you from establishing a social enterprise, but I think that a word for the aspiring social entrepreneurs that who wish to start a social enterprise out there, I think if you really do want to start a social enterprise, please be passionate about the social cause that you are advocating for. But because I think the social enterprise that you establish, you're not there just to support them or spoon feed them with helping them to get out of their problems. But I think it's more towards empowering them to stand on their own feet and to be financially independent. If, say, for example, they are struggling financially. So I would like to take Ibrupreneur as an example in this case. Like actually for Ibrupreneur, we don't just become a platform for our beneficiaries to increase their sales, their homemade sales, but we also provide them with the basic business skill sets to train them into micro entrepreneurs. So we actually provide them with the basic business handling tools such as food handling certification, business baking workshops to upskill their own homemade skills, So in the future, we would want to equip them with these basic skills for them to stand on their own feet. And even if one day, if our beneficiaries, like they graduate from Ibrupreneur, I think it's totally fine because that's what we actually envision it to be, that all these people all these beneficiaries that we are aiming to empower, they can stand on their own feet in the end. So that's my key takeaway.
Okay, thank you very much. Basically, you see, on my personal takeaway is that, as a part of being part of academicians and also as an active citizen, yeah, there's a lot of things that me and my team and I, we are thinking about a lot of things to, especially working together, looking into syllabus, try to solidize the platforms of social entrepreneurship, social enterprise activities in Malaysia. There's a lot of things that, we are all, to such extent, we are all working in silos. Everybody is having their own agendas and everything. So I think it's about time. And this pandemic thing is actually a key turning point for us. It's all about social giving back. It's about doing something good because we have a lot of issues outside there, especially social issues. So this is our opportunity. So what are we going to do after this? How are we going to do it? What sort of parties that need to be involved, because now we have a lot of platforms, and it's not only crowd founders or financial institutions, but we talk about opportunities by British Council, Magic, Ministry of Human Resources, Ministry of Education. So all these things need to come together. So you guys as a practitioners, we and our students are all in an academic side. So yes, it's a good move, and I think you see, to sum up this platform, I think this is a good start. So we have to keep continuing, and there's a lot of key points here that we have to further discuss and see how that this can even further develop as an alternative business model for the SMEs outside there. Not even us as an social enterprise, but maybe some of the SMEs wanted to use, SE's model as an alternative to improve their performance, when they are all having some issues at this point of time. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, sadly, all good things must come to an end. Especially doing something good like this is not an easy thing. All right, and before we part, I would like to record my heartfelt appreciation to our panelists, Miss Nur Farini Daing, Nini Daing, Raudah Nasran, and also Miss Wong Wichi, okay, for taking time of their busy schedule to share their insights with us today. Also, a big thank you to UUMIT, UTLC, UUM Corporate Com, JPP, and the UUM Center for University Industry Collaboration for making this thing happen. So to our audience, thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you all again in our next issue of In Touch Virtually Connected series. Till then, stay safe, take care, and Selamat Hari Raya.
Selamat Hari Raya.
Bye-bye. Sharif, ready?
Selamat Hari Raya, nak kuih raya.
I cannot go back to KL.
Yalah.
Oh my goodness.
Tak apa, you have the best of Kedah. Tak dengar.